Hello, Stanfords, and thank you for inviting me today to talk about my new book, Park Life Around the World in 50 Parks. I was about to say it's a travel book, but it's a kind of travel book. It was written during a period when you couldn't travel at all during the lockdowns, and it was inspired by my local park, Richmond Park, in southwest London, London's largest park at 2,400 acres. And having been round it so many times during lockdown when all we could do was go to our local Sainsbury's or whatever, or go to our local park, I got to know it very well, and I went go around each weekend with my girlfriend, and we'd meet people along the way. We'd see the regulars who were doing the circuit like us too. We did it quite early in the morning, around 7 each morning, on Saturdays and Sundays, and we'd see the plants get greener, the leaves on the trees appear, the deer going through the cycle of their life. There are 600 of their year. There are 600 deer in Richmond Park, with a bloodline dating back to Henry VIII. And actually learning about the history of the park as I kind of delved into this large royal park, discovering that Charles I had founded it in 1637, and grabbed land from local landowners, adding to his already to his unpopularity at the time, and he was forced to actually create rights of way for people to walk across the land because they were so upset. And equally, that was echoed in the 1750s when Princess Amelia, the daughter of George II, was made warden of Richmond Park, and she only allowed her friends to enter the park with special passes. And a local hero appeared, a man called John Lewis, who was a brewer from Richmond, and he demanded that people should have a right of way through the park. And he was very popular locally, a cult hero really. And he took Princess Amelia to court, and he eventually won, although he spent so much money on legal fees that he was effectively destitute as a result of all his actions. However, this it was a rich history that knew nothing about, and I suddenly discovered, well, I now know this local park so well. I now know I can know it physically. I also know the history of it, and there were lots of things that were terribly interesting, such as Charles Dickens, his visits to the park, and George Eliot and Queen Victoria came to stay over at the White Lodge at a different time. And I thought, well, hold on, if this park has so much interest, well, I'm sure that the different parks I visited around the world have plenty of interest too, and also at this time of lockdowns, we were having to appreciate the local so much more, and pay attention to the local. And the local is not just in where you live. There are local places all around the world with parks in them, and as a result of this kind of thought process, I began to look at my notebooks, many of which are on the shelf behind me here, from the past 20 years of being a travel writer, and also to look at photos. And I began, because no travel was possible at all, to take a travel in my mind, if you like, a voyage of the imagination around the world, visiting the parks, if you like, in quotation marks, visiting, and remembering what I could of them through the notebooks. I'm a hopeless note taker. I take them the whole time, and I had material to call upon. And so from Pyongyang in North Korea to New York City to Central Park to Khartoum in Sudan to Cape Town in South Africa to Quito in Ecuador to a Golden Gate Park in San Francisco to the little park on the island of Malé in the Maldives to park in Shimla in India to the parks in Sydney to Hong Kong, China, Beijing, Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh City. I suddenly found myself in a rather nice, wonderful position, actually, of going on a holiday or a grand world adventure without actually leaving this very study. And the result was this book, which is effectively a series of 50 essays or short stories, I suppose, about parks and their unusual backgrounds and secret histories across the globe, taken at a time when you couldn't travel. And so the it's a travel book, but it's more of a voyage of the imagination, and it's armchair travel. And it hopes to kind of show how important, as cities get more important around the world, the United Nations believes that, well, currently the figure is 55% of the world lives in cities. That figure will be 68% by 2050, according to the United Nations. We are all living closer and closer together in big urban sprawls, and we will need these green spaces for our sanity, um, increasingly so, whether we have pandemics or not. And let's hope there are no more pandemics. Anyway, this book is a kind of quixotic journey, if you like, written in this study, and the travels taking place in my head in this study, if you like, and it was a great pleasure and a kind of test really to see of memory, to go to recall all the moments from over the past 20 years, and I hope that the book that results from it gives a colourful journey through the kind of oasis of green in the various cities around the world that I've been so privileged to visit. And thank you, Stanfords, once again for inviting me to come and to tell you about this book. Many thanks.